actually going to do this?
We're in bed right now.
It is a nice, lazy Sunday morning here in Turkey. Well, I guess it's no longer morning. It's probably afternoon.
Yes, because it's that lazy. We don't know the time of the day.
But we started a year ago. A friend had brought this up to us that after listening to the Flynn and Lacey podcast, that they said that we should do a recording on us having sex. Yeah, I remember it was intriguing to me.
Yes, and it felt intriguing to me as well, which was odd because I definitely don't want people like checking in on me.
No, you're not an exhibitionist.
No.
I don't know. I think you're an exhibitionist.
Oh my
but
gosh.
You like to definitely.
No,
show.
I don't. So anyways, we already started our podcast. We recorded it back when we were in South Africa. And then I think not that long ago, you said, actually, I think what we need to do is start first with giving people our infusion of our sexual sounds. And you gave me a lot of space to think about it and feel into it, because it felt very edgy for me to launch instantly into that without having much relationship with the listeners.
Well, I mean, how do you feel about doing it?
It's a little, tiny bit nervous, I guess. It's very vulnerable, and yet there's a part of me that's like, people need to hear what good sex sounds like. So there's that side.
I don't know if it was a year ago or what, but yeah, when we listened though to the Lacey and Flynn, it was right towards when they were having their last episode, and then kind of noticed that there seems to be a gap because they had, it was like their 7th episode or whatever it was, and they had finished, and were saying that they're putting up the gloves. You know, I like watching UFC, so that's the metaphor I used. Literally just watched UFC 293.
So, well, also for me, when I heard that show, I couldn't understand why they had such a large following. Meaning, for me as a person listening in, it didn't actually sound like they were having good sex at all. And so I wasn't super inspired by what I was hearing, though I guess the concept of it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think to us it sounded a little bit like in the head, but I think that's also maybe why people related to it, because they talked a lot about the feelings that they're having, and yeah, I'm curious to see exactly how.
Well, I think for me, the sex didn't last very long, and it seemed like maybe what's more typical. I don't know what it's like in other people's bedrooms, but even the ones that I've sometimes heard, you know, in the hotels or whatever, it seems to last a bit longer than just a minute or two. And so I guess my concern is wanting to set an imprint of what's possible for people, and that a sex beyond 20 minutes actually opens up a lot of interesting things in the body and the mind and the heart.
Yeah, no, I definitely noticed that there are like cycles that one goes through in terms of depth of intimacy, depth of sensation, and the longer that you stay in it and the longer that you go, especially when you go beyond your kind of average 5 to 7 minute sexual experience, it just goes deeper, and there's layers and layers to it.
We were laughing earlier because we haven't said this yet, but you are the founder of Suction Sex, and I'm the founder of the Desiree Method. But we were laughing earlier because we've just recently filmed the medical protocol that we co-authored, and we had the doctor who was saying, "This is dangerous. People could fall in love."
Yeah, my response was, that definitely should be the warning label.
Warning.
For a company that's talking about love is the ultimate medicine. So.
Exactly. So there's also that piece of wanting to share what sex sounds like when it's connected as well, because in the realm of porn, the sounds that I hear feel off in my body and often don't translate, at least my female body, it doesn't translate to arousal, it translates more into alarm or concern.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that needs to just be understood, that pornography is a performative act made for the camera. And unfortunately it's not really sex education, though it does seem to serve to be the kind of the number one sex educator on what people do during sex, because that's the only really instance people have of seeing something around what they do, as opposed to just being told what not to do or how to get pregnant, etc.
I think that's the fastest way that human beings learn is by watching and imitating. That's what a child will do, and that's what's happened throughout history. And you watch a dance move, you try and imitate it. You watch, I don't know, maybe a good soccer move, or football,
Yeah.
and you try and imitate that. And I remember as well doing the same with martial arts, just watching someone do some incredible feat with their body, going, wow, I want to know how to do that. And so we watch and we imitate, and if we're doing that with porn, then unfortunately what we're imitating is friction sex.
Yeah.
And so talk to us a little about what people might be hearing today.
Well, I think what they're going to be hearing is something that's not done for a camera, obviously, because it's audio, but also not done for an audio. And it's more what happens when the focus of sex is that of sensation, and actually creating a suction seal and suction sensation between two bodies, and what that does. I think there's a different way to move, a different way that people begin to orient themselves, and that literally happens when the vagina or the anus starts to be like a mouth and suck on the cock. And then what happens, I mean, you can stick a finger in your mouth and just move it in and out really quickly, whoa, 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 whoa. And you get a certain amount of sensation, but if you're just trying to go faster and harder, then it's kind of limited. Whereas if you start to suck on the finger and move the finger in and out, then all of a sudden you get a very different sensation that's created. But interestingly enough, then the mouth as well as the finger start to move differently, because it's oriented on keeping that suction sensation. And then there's kind of a different sexual IQ, you could say, that starts to happen when you orient around pleasure.
What I like about it too is once you understand that really basic idea, is you can get out of your head and get immersed into the sensation and allow the body's natural erotic intelligence to just start to come forward and
you
lead
just want to
the
create
way.
more of that sensation.
Exactly, and you just want to follow it and amplify it. So
sometimes you get into all kinds of interesting positions.
And then also one of the things that you practice is ejaculatory choice. So we're not necessarily engaging to head in that particular direction, though it could, because you're at choice. Could you talk a little about that?
Well, I just noticed that if you kind of do this linear sex, which starts with an erection and ends with the erection, meaning with ejaculation, then you maybe have a 3, 5, 7 minute experience that can be great, but you don't really get to go into the different sort of nuances and layers of really opening up oneself to different physical sensations, but also to different intimacy levels, and then the ability to continue to do that over one session of sex, 2 sessions of sex, 14, 40, however many times you end up having sex. Then each time that energy just kind of builds. It leaves you both sensationally on a high and wanting more, but it starts to, you don't get that sort of crash or down, it just opens up more exploration, it increases your pleasure capacity is what I want to say.
Yeah, I agree. And when we're in that, I think, at least in my body, what starts to happen is there is a physical response to your cycles,
Mm-hmm.
So there is a moment where it feels like you're gonna come,
Mm-hmm.
and my body goes crazy, and then you don't, and then there's like a threshold that's we pass through, and then there's a whole
Keep
other
you one.
layer of sensation and desire, and that's the thing that's been most impressive, I think, in our exploration over time, is I only want you more, not less.
Mm. Yeah, I've definitely noticed that, and it's a pretty amazing feeling as opposed to sort of the traditional sense of that the guy's shoulder tapping for more sex, but instead having a partner that's continually wanting it and noticing that it's good for them, and it just creates a very different dynamic.
Lately, like when I've gone to bed a bit before you and lay in the bed, I'm slowly falling asleep. I'm like, oh, I really hope he comes in here and fucks me.
She's potty mouth.
And then I fall asleep and I'm like, oh, wow, this is like, yeah. And then you do, and it's so amazing. I wake up in a really nice way.
So, how are you feeling right now, Dr. Saida?
That's kind of weird, because when we're alone, you don't call me that.
It's kind of kinky.
Yeah. I'm feeling
See you with your glasses on.
hot.
Yeah.
Physically hot. Some warmth and curiosity. You're looking very sexy right now, so I can feel my mouth watering.
That's always a giveaway on you.
Me? My watering mouth?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, your mouth starts to salivate when you get aroused.
Oops. There you go. Betrayed by the mouth. So, yeah, I feel like we'll have an interesting adventure, and we'll see whether or not we actually publish this.
Yeah, and who knows how this is even going to be recorded or
Yes.
not. Just kind of clip this.
Can clip this out,
Yeah.
or beep my little swear earlier.
Well, I meant more clipping the little lapel
Oh
somewhere.
yeah, we'll see if it survives.
Yeah, exactly. I can feel in my body the blood flow starting to head south as you were talking about. Well, yeah, your mouth starting to salivate, and you can also feel kind of this openness that's starting to happen in my chest. Which is just like the feeling a little bit right before you go over that roller coaster hump, and it takes
Well,
you down.
your eyes look very naughty.
Yeah, I can also feel that side of me as well there.
That playful side.
I think that's one of the things that we talk about a lot, is just bringing like an art to sexual penetration, and beauty and playfulness to that. Because I think there's just something that's so amazing around the natural expressiveness of bodies when they are engaged in making love, having sex, fucking, whatever term you want to use for that, as it expresses itself in different ways.
I think it's important people understand kind of how much sex we have, because we've had some guests over the summer, and some of them are very sexually active people. Some really lovely couples came to visit, and one of the things they kept remarking is like, well, we thought we had a lot of sex, but geez, you two take it to another level. The reason I want to share that is just so people understand that we're sexual practitioners. We don't just talk about having sex, and the things that we talk about really are grounded in actual, real, lived experience, not just an ideal or a fantasy about these felt states that we refer to, or the orgasmic states we refer to, or our capacities with our bodies.
Yeah, I do feel that everyone and their grandmother nowadays on Instagram is called a sex educator, and just sort of want to almost get away from that term and be like, you know what, I educate because I practice it, so I'm a sex practitioner.
Yes, and probably like our...
Not a performer, but a practitioner.
Yeah, I think maybe the issue with our own capacity with business would be that we're preoccupied practicing more than we are marketing.
Marketing, exactly.
So the ones who are marketing and getting out there aren't actually necessarily doing.
Well, that, and also maybe that's, I think, why this is maybe an interesting medium to explore, is because sex is just quickly labeled pornography, and even on the Instagram accounts, we are continually getting banned for being dressed in clothes and just talking about positions.
I mean, it's amazing because the exact same movement in another account in a girl wearing a string bikini who's also twerking isn't getting shut down. But if we're demonstrating, hey, use the twerk because it actually can feel better in your partner body or your own body, then that gets shut down. It just seems so strange to me.
Yeah, I definitely have just thought of like, why is this? It's so ironic. But anyway, so this is, I think, a way to share some of these gifts or talents or whatever you want to call it, because I do believe by leading by example and embodying different things. And so welcome to the Embodied Love Lounge.
Yes, and we are planning, in all the other podcasts that we recorded, we're going to have a larger portion of the podcast is going to be in a paid membership, because it will be more explicit, and a lot of the explicit content will be taken down in normal platforms. So we want to protect that content, so you will need to become a member to hear the more explicit content, which includes what we were about to do shortly.
So yeah, if you're at all curious, then you might want to check that out. It's about to go down.
That's right. Or I will.
To join us for the complete and explicit version of the podcast, simply upgrade your membership and gain instant access.